Yeah.
Hey, this is Luis from Nervos. Today I'm happy to present our guest, Felix, a co-founder of Set Protocol, and our moderator, Pan, who is a researcher from Chain News. Today they will be chatting. I'm sorry, are you hearing a feedback? One second,
Yeah.
sorry about that. Started getting some feedback from the live video, sorry about that. Today they'll be chatting about DeFi. Stick around after the conversation as they'll answer a couple questions from the community. I'll open up the floor to them now and thank you for joining us.
Maybe we can turn on the video.
Oh, yes. Hey, I'm in.
Hey.
Well, thanks for having us. It's a pleasure to be here talking about DeFi.
Yeah. Are we start? Luis? Have you done the introduction?
Yeah, it was a super short introduction, but I can go ahead and repeat it. Maybe you guys could tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay.
I know you're the CEO and co-founder of Set Protocol. Maybe you could just tell us a little bit about what got you into the space and a little background.
Sure. Yeah, my name is Felix, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Set. And I was born and raised in the Bay Area. I went to school at UC Berkeley, and it was in 2013 that I first heard about Bitcoin. One of my friends was trading and mining it at the time when Bitcoin was about $100, and over the course of 2013, it went to $1,300. I was very interested in all this activity, and I bought $1,000 of Bitcoin and probably sold it for a $10 profit at the time. But I started getting addicted. In 2014, I was studying abroad in Milan, in Italy, and I was very obsessed about Bitcoin, and I got the opportunity to attend Bitcoin 2014, which was the annual Bitcoin conference held in Amsterdam that year. And I got to see a lot of the early core developers. I watched their presentations. I got to meet some of the people at Coinbase, like at the time, which was still very early for them. And I met people like Charlie Lee, and I left that event thinking, wow, the technology behind Bitcoin is going to completely revolutionize and change the finance and legal industries the same way that the internet did for media and communication. I saw that this is something that could play out over the course of the next 20 years. And that was when I started buying Bitcoin. Bitcoin was about $600 at the time, and the price just kept going down. I was down like 80% at one point, which is really sad. But I believed in the long-term future of this. And after I graduated, I worked in finance for a year. It was around 2015 also that I started trying to talk to more and more people about crypto and Bitcoin. And one of the people I reached out to was Paul V at Pantera Capital. He had recently joined as an investor at Pantera, looking at early stage investments, and I helped him look at early companies such as mostly exchanges and wallets at the time. But we also looked at really cool stuff like Civic and IPFS, which, and I met Juan Benet, which became Filecoin. We invested in like Brave. So I got to see a lot of the early companies at the time. Afterwards, I ended up joining a company in crypto because not only did I want to spend all my money, but I wanted to spend all my time thinking about crypto. So there were two big companies in Silicon Valley at the time focused on crypto. There was Coinbase, and then there was another company called 21. I ended up joining 21, And 21 was a Bitcoin mining company at the time, and they had built one of the first ASICs in the industry. They had about 2% of the mining network power at the time, and I helped them make that transition from mining and data centers in the U.S. And they were getting out of the business because it was very hard to compete against the people in China. So help them pivot into kind of a Raspberry Pi product, which was the 21 Bitcoin computer, and eventually what became Earn. In 2016, I took a step back from crypto because the scaling debates were very depressing, and it didn't seem like things were going anywhere. So I ended up joining a machine learning startup as a software engineer instead. But in 2017, Paul messaged me. He was like, "Hey, you need to start looking at this thing called Ethereum." And I was pretty much a Bitcoin maximalist at the time. So I said, "What was Ethereum?" So I started looking into the white paper. I saw the community, and I read the I saw kind of what was going on, and I thought, wow, like this is going to be huge. So I started kind of selling some of my Bitcoin to buy Ethereum, and I bought it very vividly on a Friday when in February of 2017, when the price was $70. And over the course of the weekend, it went from 70 to 150. And that was the beginning of the 2017 bull market. And since then, I've been participating and investing in many of the projects in the space. And the ones that were most interesting to me really were the decentralized exchange projects like 0x, AirSwap, Kyber Network, and whatnot. And I mean, fundamentally, like the thesis that I held was the same as back in 2014, which was the technology behind crypto is going to revolutionize finance. And that's why, the exchange protocols were very interesting to me. And later on, I started learning how to program Solidity. So I was writing smart contracts and building very basic decentralized applications. And in 2017, in September of 2017, I read Antonio Giuliano's white paper on DYDX. And that really blew my mind because it helped me realize that you can build sophisticated financial products using smart contracts. That was something that was possible. And as I thought about what was missing in the space, I realized that no one else was really building a decentralized index fund. So when I went to ETH Waterloo, which was the first Ethereum hackathon, I was originally planning to join a team that was working on Web3 and TypeScript. But on the plane right there, I started architecting kind of the first idea of a decentralized index fund. And by the time I landed, I was so compelled by this idea that I ended up ditching my team and ended up working on what became Set. So yeah, that's essentially a little bit of my story and how I first got interested in crypto and have been working on Set since.
Okay. So next, I think I can talk more about myself. And I'm Pan Zhixiong from Chain News, and very interested in DeFi topics such as liquidity, asset management, or DEX. Previously as a product manager from my token in a China fintech company. Let me go through my experience of DeFi next. In 2018, the concept of DeFi has not even been born. At that time, I had built a cryptocurrency ticker app called My Token for the China crypto market. But before that, I was in a fintech company. I built asset management apps, especially for the private placement assets for our high net value customers. So I'm very interested in financial kind of service. I tried economy, just you said, it's some kind of index fund tools, built part of them on Ethereum in 2018. And as a similar service, some of them had died. In 2019, we start to hear more the term of DeFi, and that becomes a very big topic around all the Ethereum community. I've tried to understand Uniswap, DYDX, all kinds of DEX, decentralized exchanges. At that time, we only have DEX or lending platform in lending in DeFi category. But near the end of 2019, we noticed that protocol token sets, and on-chain asset management tool, which is dedicated to social trading and robo-advisor strategy. And other than that, we pay a lot attention to the liquidity protocol, insurance or hedge protocols, options, or other derivatives. Okay, so that's how I entered this area, shorter than you. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I think I can start my question about the DeFi part. Yeah. Maybe our audience was not familiar with the term DeFi, or somebody could call it open finance. So can you give us some quick introduction to this concept and where did it come from? Yeah.
Yeah, good question. DeFi is, I would say, like a meme or a movement. It's short for decentralized finance, and it really kind of embodies like the spirit of what this community is doing. It really began, back in 2014 with Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin was kind of the first example of decentralized finance. It's just no one ever called it that. And when we started building DEXs and other types of decentralized exchanges, and we started securitizing, creating tokens. I think that was all part of decentralized finance as well. What MakerDAO was doing was decentralized finance. There just wasn't like a name or a movement around what we were doing at that point. And in 2017, many other projects in the Bay Area were also working on these finance products, whether it's like 0x, Compound, Dharma, DYDX. We were all in the city, and we noticed that we were all trying to push a similar vision. We want to build products that were global. We want to reinvent the entire financial system from a bottoms-up, first principles perspective. We believe that these products should be permissionless, which means like they can be used by anybody, and that there shouldn't be any barriers to entry as well. So we were all doing this individually. And I started emailing some of the other founders and saying like, hey, wouldn't it be great if we like work together to try to spread the idea of what we're doing to more and more people? Nadav at Dharma thought it was a good idea. And back in 2017, but it didn't really get any more attention. It wasn't until 2018, after we had raised money and we had launched our products, that Brendan from Dharma reached out and he said, hey, like we're thinking about creating some sort of like industry consortium around like kind of the what we're doing, which is like crypto finance. And we ended up getting a few folks like from 0x, from our team, from Dharma, from some other teams as well. And we created a small private Telegram group where we started brainstorming. And we started by thinking about what a name could be for this. And we brainstormed a whole bunch of ideas, like some very bad ones, like Open Lattice, but we ended up going with DeFi. It was a name that was very succinct. It was short. It got to the point, and it was pretty cool sounding, and it also meant to challenge in French. So we ended up going with DeFi, and we created a Telegram group for the community. We created a Reddit channel. We also announced DeFi on each of our individual Medium accounts. And in September of 2018, we hosted the first DeFi meetup. Only like 10 people attended. Like people didn't know what DeFi was and they didn't care, but we were not discouraged. And in October, 1 month later, SF Blockchain Week was being hosted in San Francisco, and we hosted the first DeFi Summit, which is a 200 to 300 person conference centered around DeFi. And we had speakers like all around, from leaders in all of DeFi kind of speaking. And that was the first time that it felt very real, like what we were trying to do. It felt like there was a community. It felt like there was real discussion around what kind of DeFi is, and people trying to solve problems and trying to move the industry forward. So that ended up being a really big success. And 1 month later, we hosted a second DeFi Summit at DevCon 4 in Prague. And that was another big success. And since then, DeFi has really gotten a life of its own. People started hosting DeFi events all over the world. People are talking about it in the media. And DeFi recently hit $1 billion in TVL at its peak on DeFi Pulse. And there's a significant amount of traction, and it's one of the biggest themes in all of crypto today. So And I think that the main thing to realize is that DeFi is still very early. I like to analogize DeFi and crypto to the internet in the sense that the internet, took 20 years to really build and to roll out. And I think that with DeFi, we're in like 1995 or 1997 now, right? The user experience isn't very good. It's only used by a few number of people, but it's a secular trend that will take 10 to 20 years for it to fully play out. So I think that people realize things are early and there's a lot of problems, but we have a lot of work to do. And I'm very excited about the future and where things are going.
Yeah, sure. So why should other people or crypto token holders care about DeFi, and why?
Yeah, so I mean, I think like you kind of have a sense that I think that DeFi is one of the most important kind of trends and changes in like our lifetime. I think that the internet was the biggest thing that happened to us, but when the internet was being built, I was too young. I was probably less than 10 years old, so I couldn't contribute effectively to the development of the internet. But I see that like with DeFi and crypto, it's really kind of the next advent of something that is going to completely change the way that we do things. I think that DeFi is going to change all of finance and the way that people deal with legal stuff as well. Like everything that all the big companies, like all the banks, currently have a ton of problems. There's huge inefficiencies when doing international payments, right? Like if I want to send some money to somebody in Europe from the US, it's going to take 3 to 5 days and it costs like $7 in fees. That's very infuriating when we have an internet first kind of world where it takes like a millisecond to send a message. So I imagine a world where sending kind of money and transacting will be as simple as an internet transaction. In addition to that, traditional banks are very non-inoperable. Like if you have a product that was built in a bank or a specific like hedge fund or a certain financial institution, those products usually are not exported everywhere else, and that's a big problem. And so I think like that's what some of these problems is really what DeFi is trying to solve. Like one is we're offering products that are internet first. So they are available immediately to everyone in the world, not just those in Western countries, not just those that are privileged, but we are trying to democratize and give access to people, to anyone that has a smartphone or internet access can now essentially get access to sophisticated financial products that are traditionally available only to the wealthy. In addition to that, like the building blocks of DeFi are extremely are composable. So for example, you can imagine that in DeFi, things are completely open source. They are open for everyone to inspect, and all the code is run publicly. And as a result, like other developers can start taking other other projects like code and start building on top of them, which is why you're seeing a huge amount of innovation and a speed of development in DeFi compared to that of traditional like financial industries. So with kind of this DeFi, like I imagine that, just like now how everyone now has access to kind of knowledge and information used through kind of their smartphone, I think that like with DeFi, everyone will have access to financial products just through their smartphone as well. So I think this is something that's going to permeate and change everybody's lives and how they interact with finance, in the next kind of 10 to 20 years.
Yeah, in my opinion, the DeFi is something, some kind of programming money that everyone can do the programming for your Ether or Bitcoin or stable coin. Yeah. So for most of the entry user, do you have any recommendations or suggestions for DeFi service or wallets that they can pick?
Yeah, I guess, the complete entry user, if they want to start using DeFi, there's a lot of really good options available. In the Western world, there's companies like Argent and Dharma that are building really easy to use wallets. You can pay with eventually, your debit card or send money directly from your bank account. They abstract away a lot of complexities of using Ethereum products, such as they use meta transactions so that you don't have to worry about gas and submitting transactions and doing retries. In addition to that, they hide all the complexity under the hood and make the user experience very similar to a Web 2.0 product. I think some other really great products for the Eastern kind of crowd is IM Token and MyKey. I think those are really great wallets, that people can use and have very good user experience as well. But I think we're just getting started. I think that the easiest place to start really is kind of a centralized exchange. But once you're able to acquire some sort of Bitcoin or Ethereum, I think that these DeFi wallets are kind of the next natural place for someone new to get started.
Yeah, yes. DeFi wallets and centralized exchanges are the entry product for most of the users here. Yeah. So how about the DeFi trends? And before 2020, we had many lending or the borrowing DeFi service or DEX. And how about 2020 and then in the future? Except for the speculation or generating yield, what can we do?
Yeah, so from 2017 to 2019, we saw a lot of liquidity protocols go live, whether it's like 0x, Uniswap, Kyber, AirSwap, now and we also see like a good amount of margin trading products kind of go live. So whether it's like DYDX, BZX, DDEX, among others, we've seen lending products such as Compound as well. There's also DForce's product too. So we see a lot of this, and I think something that's also happened recently in 2020 and late 2019 is we're seeing aggregation of liquidity of these products and interest rate rebalancing. So you have products like 1inch Exchange or Dex.ag or even 0x now, and Kyber is in the game too, where they're aggregating liquidity and trying to give people the best price and make it available to people. We're also seeing interest rate rebalancers because there's so many lending products. People want to get the best interest rate. So there's products built on top of it like staked.us, like money markets that is helping people get the best interest rate. So we're seeing a lot of products that are also remixing existing products. Like for example, like you have a lot of variants of Maker, like you have a new variant of MakerDAO. I think Amin Soleimani proposed like MetaCoin, which is like MakerDAO without the oracles or whatnot with different governance. In addition, we have many other versions of Uniswap now, whether it's like Curve Finance, which is good for stablecoins. You have like Balancer, which is trying to generalize and enable kind of liquidity provisioning through multiple assets in more of a basket-like way. And I think, so we're seeing a lot of remixing happening. In addition to that, like I believe that we're going to see the rise of more products that will help build on top of what the primitives exist. So I think we'll see a lot more asset management mature. So I mean, products like Set, which is what we're working on, is really pushing that forward. I think that we'll see a lot more insurance products being experimented as well. Obviously, there's like Nexus Mutual, but there's other products like Open, which is doing options. And we're going to see a lot more projects build insurance natively. For example, like MakerDAO with their kind of like debt auctions is technically an insurance product in the case that things go well, that the MakerDAO holders like pay for the failure of the protocol. And I think that other examples are like Compound, where they actually have an insurance fund like built into their product in case of black swan events. So I think that we're going to see a lot more insurance, a lot more in asset management. And I think that we're going to see a lot more sophisticated derivatives as well, right? Right now, we just have very simple margin trading. So, but I think that we're going to see a lot more when it comes to futures, perpetuals. We're going to see more option-like products. We're going to see combinations of different products being put together. We're going to see interest rate kind of like products as well. So I think that's a lot of that is going to come in 2020, 2021. And I'm pretty excited about what's the development of this whole ecosystem.
Yeah, sure. Lots of products that we can use in the future. Yeah. And so let's talk more about the microfinance situation all over the world. We can see many kinds of assets shrinking, such as oil stocks, but they are now better and better here these days. But how will these impact the DeFi space?
Yeah, good question. More broadly, it seems like the macroeconomic kind of downturn with coronavirus has actually is actually very good for accelerating the use of new technologies. So a lot of the tech companies are actually doing quite well because of coronavirus. Particularly, companies like Zoom, which you're using now,
Yeah.
or the big companies like Amazon are trying to hire 100,000 people.
Yeah.
Facebook, Google, like they're all doing extremely well because people are more and more reliant on and using these services even more. I think that it's the same thing with emerging technologies like VR. A lot of people are buying headsets and trying to interact with one another.
Yeah.
And I think that crypto, so essentially the idea is that anything that is internet first is doing extremely well. And I think that crypto is also doing well, actually. Even though the asset prices have gone down, usage of crypto has gone up. Now, particularly in Black Thursday, about 2 weeks ago,
Yeah.
we actually saw some of the highest amounts of volume for exchanges and decentralized exchanges. Like Coinbase said that they made the most revenue on a per week basis about 2 weeks ago. And Uniswap had like $52 million of volume in a single day on Black Thursday. So it's showing that like these products still are being used even though we are in kind of this downturn. So I think that crypto is going to do well, and I think that people are going to start learning about the value proposition of crypto even more so, kind of with these macroeconomic kind of trends.
Okay. Uh, I see someone is asking you about the congestion on Ethereum in the timing like the Black Thursday. I think that my next question is the same. Maybe some DeFi users know Bitcoin, Ethereum price goes down correlate with the global financial crisis. But then we see one of the biggest component of DeFi, the MakerDAO suffered problem with the auction system, and then lose several $1 million, which may be caused by the Ethereum scalability or performance. But some of the question may caused by themselves. And before that, we see the BZX, one of the lending and the DEX service of DeFi was attacked by an unknown arbitrage hacker. So how do you see these kind of attacks, and do we have any solutions in the future? Because we see these kind of attacks, some of them are not technically problems. Yeah, they are financial or economic things. Yeah.
I think you kind of said it right there. I think that what we're seeing now is the era of economic attacks, right? So, and this is something that people need to start paying a lot more attention to. So, the best analogy is really, in 2016, most smart contract developers wrote a bunch of code, and they thought that, and they test their own code, and they look at it themselves, and they think that their code is secure. So they deploy this code, and lo and behold, in 2016, 2017, we saw a lot of smart contract hacks, right? Like the DAO and with parity, and they cause huge problems in the industry. So as a result, people learned that you should get your smart contracts audited and looked at by multiple professionals, and you should do that before launching a product that can be used by thousands or eventually hundreds of thousands of people that stores millions of dollars. So I think the same thing is happening with economic attacks now, right? In 2018 and 2019, like there were not too many smart contract bugs like anymore, but instead, like people thought like, okay, well, I built this protocol, it's going to be secure, economically secure, and thus like, I did my own modeling, it's to be okay, right? But now we're learning that with BZX and MakerDAO that it is not okay. So I think going forward, we will need to hire professionals who will help audit essentially protocols. And I think there's firms like Gauntlet Network who are helping to perform these economic analyses. And I think that will eventually become standard practice for people. So I think that most people need to like experience something really bad before they start doing the right thing, right? Like there needs to be smart contract hacks before people do auditing. There needs to be there needs to be bad results due to economic activity before people start doing economic audits. But I'm pretty bullish on where things are going. I think now people will start doing these audits. I think Compound did one with Gauntlet recently, where they analyzed the network under stressed conditions. I think that MakerDAO will do more of this as well. Every single protocol that has risks will start kind of employing these folks. And I think that there's other things that can be done outside of audits. Protocols can build in insurance funds as well. So like if attack happened, then the protocol can, and it was unintended, perhaps the protocol can pay out these individuals who were affected. it's also good to see that there are a lot of insurance products being experimented with that can help protect people from these hacks. So I think that, at the end of the day, this is normal, part of development. It's just like people didn't prioritize or care about the economic risks as much as before. But now that things are getting a lot more serious, there's a lot more money at stake. I think that is like people are starting to take it more seriously.
Yeah. So how many aspects that the audit may pay attention to, such as the code or the insurance, or you say the performance, or other kind of aspect that they may pay attention to? Yeah.
Yeah, what other aspects are there? Yeah, I mean, there's code which will look for very common kind of like problems like reentrancy
Yeah.
or very lower level stuff. Sometimes like the auditor will be smart enough to say like, hey, if Ethereum has congestion, then it might have like certain denial of service kind of issues, which is what MakerDAO experienced. At the end of the day, I think scalability will help solve some of the like kind of technical like issues. So if Ethereum scaled like 1000x, then maybe we wouldn't have had like the problems that MakerDAO had. But at the same time, like the MakerDAO problems were very social in nature, not just technical or economic, but like they didn't make it very easy for individuals like retail and non-technical folks to participate in the auctions. You had to have built like a bot like yourself. They didn't even have like a user interface where you can go and take down these auctions yourself. So as a result, there are very little kind of liquidators that were online that were ready to do this, which is why the price of kind of some of the auctions like went down to $0. So in addition, the parameterization was probably a little bit too strict. Like the auctions lasted for 10 minutes and now they're changing it to 6 hours. So that's a good improvement. So I think like some of the things are social and can be voted on, are not completely technical in nature. And I think that some of the earlier assumptions may be naive based on and doesn't completely take into account the worst case scenario, which is essentially the black swan that we just experienced. So I think that BZX has different issues, attack vectors. Like their issues were more around using an oracle that is manipulable. So I think that's where you have to really understand your dependencies. And I think that has to be part of the audit that is done on an economic and smart contract basis to really understand in which scenarios can things go wrong. And you have to not only understand and account for that internally as a team, but you also have to communicate to your users like what the potential issues are. Because most people did not know that, oh, like BZX uses like Kyber as an oracle, or most people did not know that the auction could have resulted in you losing all of your money, not just 13%. So many people were very surprised. So I think that there's a long way to improve in terms of the social and communication and the level of execution that each team can bring to the table.
Yeah, and because of this attack, everyone have noticed these kind of problems and start to improve, including the MakerDAO and BZX. I think that's a very good thing in DeFi space. Yeah.
Yeah, it's much better to handle these problems now than when we're dealing with trillions of dollars in the future.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so that's fine from my questions. So I picked one from the Zoom. Then could you maybe share a bit more about your go-to-market strategy? Someone asked you. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. In terms of set, like, and we didn't really talk about like set protocol like too much, but in terms of like what we've built so far, like we've launched on mainnet in April of 2019, and we built token sets, which is a user-facing product where you can get access to these asset management strategies. And the first thing, and the strategies that we launched that were most popular were really the trend trading strategies. So these enabled you to automatically like implement a hedge fund product, and they have done quite well. Our ETH RSI set, for example, at its best point, did 153% like better than holding Ether. So, and the main reason, part of the reason is that it automatically trades based on some sort of like predefined indicator. And recently, it sold Ether at around $230, like before the entire crash. So it saved people like a lot of money, and people are quite happy. And the main thing about these strategies that we launch is that we as a team need to develop the strategies. We need to back test it ourselves, and then we need to market the strategies and tell people about it. It takes a lot of work to do that. So what we did next was we started enabling third parties to start implementing strategies on our platform. And that's really what social trading is it's a product similar to eToro, but decentralized, and enables these essentially people who have strategies they want to run to implement them on set. And they're incentivized to essentially monetize their following through some sort of like entry subscription or like or a profit-based fee. And it's been doing quite well. Like people have been following these strategies. Our top trader, or one of our traders, Aaron Kruger, was able to actually get $500,000 of capital in a set in 2 days when we launched. So it's really proven that people from all around the world can start monetizing their intellect. And so we plan on continuing to onboard more traders onto our platform. So we have a long wait list of people who want to be social traders, and we're also proactively reaching out to new traders as well to try to bring them online. We're also trying to add new assets onto our platform. So today we mostly we have Bitcoin, Ether, USD, the compound versions of USDC and DAI. In addition, we recently launched Link. But one of the biggest things that we want to add is tokenized long and short positions or derivatives. So we think that will help traders complete their trading strategies. And then finally, we're growing through internationalization. We want to, most of DeFi today is Western in nature. So it's like US, Canada, and Europe. But we want to, there's a whole bunch of other markets like China, Korea, Russia, Turkey that have a lot of users that can benefit from DeFi. So we're spending a good amount of effort and time getting into these new markets. So recently we've internationalized our website. So our website is not only in English now, but it's in Chinese, Russian, Turkish, and we just announced support for German today. And we're going to be adding more support. We're also going to be, I think one of the things in general that is underutilized in DeFi is affiliate and referral programs. A lot of centralized exchanges like Binance and Coinbase get a lot of their users from bloggers and YouTubers that share their links. So we're going to be trying to implement these kind of programs as well. So I think those are some kind of ideas that we have in mind as to how we'll continue to go to market and grow our user base.
I'm just curious, did the congestion problem on Ethereum, how the congestion problem on Ethereum impact the SET protocol, because your work is all on chain. The trading or the auction part, I think SET protocol also have some these kind of mechanisms. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a good question. Luckily for SET, most of our largest strategies and sets didn't rebalance during Black Thursday. They rebalanced many days before. So we sold Ether around $220, and then Black Thursday is when it went from 190 to 120 or below that, right? So many of our sets didn't rebalance. So we didn't have too many issues. We didn't have market makers that were scammer. We're trying to get into our auctions, so we didn't have too many of those issues. But the thing that did happen was many of our users were paying extremely high gas prices to buy and sell sets. For example, someone might have tried to sell $100 worth of a set and paid $30 in transaction fees. So that was pretty bad for a lot of users that were trying to get out of their positions, and most of them were trying to get out of their positions to top up their CDPs or to pay down their debts and die. So I think that we saw that the prices of the transactions were going up a lot, and there were a few rebalances that happened, but they were not substantial in nature, in the sense that it didn't cause us any issues.
Okay, cool. So everyone wants to solve the problem of Ethereum scalability.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so Luis, can we start the community questions?
Yeah, we can go ahead and start the questions. Do you want me to read them out loud?
Oh, so maybe I can read the problem. Yeah.
Okay.
Question. Yeah, DeFi is considered to be a new financial resolution movement. In your opinion, what is the essence of DeFi? How does the decentralized lending and borrowing business works? What are the innovation and the pain point in DeFi? And is there any opportunity worth paying attention to?
Yeah, that's a lot of questions there. But yeah, at the very essence of DeFi, it's building a financial system that is global. It's accessible by everybody, and anyone can interact with anybody else. It's one that's 24/7. It doesn't close on Friday at 5 p.m. But it goes and runs no matter what. It will drive a lot of people crazy, but like that's what we're imagining. And it should be internet first. So it should be something that's open source in nature. It should be something that everyone can inspect the rules of how it works. And I mean, that's at the essence of what we're trying to build, is like something that works for a financial system that works for the internet first world, like today, for billions of people, not just the people in like Western countries or whatnot. And I mean, like decentralized lending businesses and borrowing are already live on Ethereum. You have Compound, you have MakerDAO, and these are accessible by anybody. They don't require KYC AML. Compound and MakerDAO cannot ban you from using their product. And you're dealing with counterparties like from all around the world. Like, so it's pretty amazing that you can do this today. And I think at the end of the day, the pain points are that like for some people, like today at least, like they're excluded from the financial system, right? If you're like not in the United States, or you have a certain amount of income, or you're a certain age, then you can't get access to financial products. So at the very least, it helps people who are able to use this. In addition, like it helps people who want to stay anonymous, like people who don't want to do KYC and give their information to an exchange. They can use these products without compromising their data. And I think that like that at least initially serves a use case, but later on, like these products are really great for people in third world countries that don't have access to modern banking infrastructure. Like people don't have access to lending and borrowing like in certain countries. We're very lucky to in the US and in China and whatnot, but not everyone else has that. So this brings it to everybody else in the world. So I think that there's lots of opportunities to interact with DeFi. And like I mentioned earlier, there's these wallets that you can use to get started. But right now, it's still only for a very select few. Like it's very hard to understand Ethereum. It's very hard to get Ether. It's not that accessible today. The on-ramps are not there. So I think that we have a lot of work to do to make it accessible to way more people, but we are just getting started.
Yeah, sure. Next one, I think it's the same as I have as the MakerDAO BZX flash loan attacks. In the past 6 months, as DeFi gained much more momentum and attention, various issues has emerged. For instance, there was a flash loan attack to BZX, and MakerDAO encountered problem during its price drop on March 11th and 12th. Where do we go next? And these incidents due to a lack of better underlying infrastructure, etc. For example, the more DeFi-friendly public chain, or do we need and better proactive measures such as an insurance product? I think you have asked all of the questions.
Yeah, I think we can skip this one.
Yeah. Okay, next one. How does DeFi attacks attract the traditional financial industry, or is it just a toy of CryptoPunk?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah.
I mean, DeFi certainly seems like a toy today, but many products and services that change the world begin looking like toys. And that's really because these toys like don't satisfy the needs of like the professional user or the normal user, right? They're in many ways significantly worse than existing products. But that's really, the innovator's dilemma, is that like the technology underlying crypto is improving much quicker than the needs of the individuals. So at some point, like our products are significantly worse than what users need today, but it's improving exponentially. And at some point, it's going to intersect and meet the needs of the users, but it's going to get significantly better than that. So if you imagine maybe our DeFi products are 50% as good as traditional products, at some point it will be just as good. And in the future, it might be 10 times better. So when it's 10, and the thing about our innovation is that it's happening exponentially. Like the improvements, it's only been a year and a half since DeFi was born, and we've already been able to achieve so much. So imagine if we spend 3 more years in DeFi, like we will go very far. So I think that right now we're focusing on kind of the early adopters, but eventually we will cross the chasm and reach a lot more users. And the long-term goal is that we're going to be the infrastructure that all financial institutions end up using.
Yeah, sure. So sorry, I have some question. The next one, what advantages will stand out in DeFi? How can DeFi achieve the sustainable development?
I guess, yeah, in the short term, DeFi is good at permissionless finance. It doesn't require KYC, AML. You can interact with anybody else in the world without borders. And I think that will be the initial advantage. But in the long term, I think what will keep DeFi going is really the interoperability, the open source nature and permissionlessness of DeFi. And because of this, the pace of innovation will continue, and we would be able to build products that are significantly better than that of which exists today. Okay, I think everyone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry. Next one is about Jane Wu asked, is there any regulator concern around the token sets products? It sounds like offering hedge fund product to everyone, which is great, but not sure how regulators see this.
Yeah, so I mean, at the end of the day, with regulatory related questions, it really depends on the jurisdiction that you're in and how the local regulators treat the product. With SET, what we built is regulatorily compliant today. It seems like a hedge fund product, but we are in unregulated territory because we're currently dealing with only commodities. So with Bitcoin, Ethereum, and whatnot. And as a result, there's no requirement to be like an RIA or a registered investment advisor, which typically deals with securities, or you wouldn't need to be a commodity trade advisor, which typically deals with regulated commodity interests. So in the future, if our products essentially deal with regulated commodity interests or securities, then I think that many of the traders or the managers would need to get licensed in some way, shape, or form. And token sets as the product would need to be careful about who it enables on a platform. But today, we are able to offer a product to anybody in the world.
Okay. Then how about the maker adopt USDC to be an option of collateral? What's the MakerDAO question? Yeah.
Yeah, I think for a lot of DeFi purists, they think that like USDC has tainted like MakerDAOs. Like it is not like a DeFi like version anymore. But you have to really think about the use case of USDC. Like, why did they add it? It wasn't to like create a stable coin that was backed by another stable coin. That wasn't the intention. The intention is more to solve a problem around liquidity. It was a problem of like, how do you get people to mint DAI during very turbulent periods, particularly on Black Thursday, and particularly to be able to service the auctions that the debt auctions that happened a few days ago. So like most people during Black Thursday, like did not want to participate, like create more CDPs to mint DAI because the price was moving down so quickly. So as a result, like there just wasn't enough DAI in the market to be able to pay back or to take down like the auctions. So they added USDC, which is a stable asset, which can predictably mint a certain amount of DAI to help provide liquidity for the ecosystem. So I think that it's a smart move. I think it's necessary, and I think that like MakerDAO is learning that is a requirement. for handling, the worst case scenarios, which we saw last Thursday.
Yeah, they just set up a mechanism that let everyone can create more DAI for the market, because everyone wants DAI to do something. Yeah. Okay, so does the audience have any questions? It's helpful for DAI stability now. Okay, so I think no questions.
Hey, thank you, Pan and Felix, for joining us and diving into that topic. I know a lot of viewers are really interested, especially with the market today.
No questions. Yeah.
I think we go ahead and end it there unless you guys have any closing remarks.
I don't. I think I'm fine.
No, well, I guess for Set, I mean, we're super excited about the DeFi industry and want to see it kind of continue moving forward. We're always hiring, so we're looking for great talent. We're also looking for more social traders to join our platform. And if you are, if you want to implement some sort of like asset management strategy, like Token Sets is a really great venue, and I recommend that everyone try it out.
Yeah, I personally buy some robo-set strategy. I think that's good. It's far better than you just hold the Ethereum. Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
And yeah, responding to Carl, I'm very excited about the fart set.
Fart set. Okay, so Luis.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for
Yeah,
joining us. I'm going to go ahead and cut it here. Appreciate you taking the time to chat.
Yeah, thank you so much for hosting and organizing this.
Yep.
Have a good one.
Thank you, Nervous, for organizing this.
Bye.
Yeah,
right.
Thank you. Bye.
Everybody, bye.
Bye.